Stellar Horizons, and we're going to look at exploration, bases and trade. And we're going to do this together by looking at page 27 of the Stellar Horizons book. Now what we're going to do is copy what's here. So we're playing Valentina and she's playing Russia in this campaign, so we're going to go along with what they've got. So the first thing we want to establish is what we're going to be doing this turn. And what we're going to be doing this turn is we're going to try and build a base in Earth orbit, and we're also of course going to do all the things that we should be doing every turn, which is moving and exploring. But so let's start with our sequence of play and see what we're supposed to do first. So first of all, we're going to build and service phase. So what are we building? Well, we want to build a base in Earth orbit, so that means that we're going to need supplies to build bases, and we're given the cost by looking at Earth, and we can see that the 2, which is surrounded by these blue circles, that is how much it costs to build a base. So if we look at near Earth asteroids, we see it would cost 3. To build one on the moon would cost 3. But in Earth orbit it costs 2, and that's handy because when we look at our record chart, we can see that we have the Clipper, and the Clipper has an orange hexagon, which means that we have a cargo capacity of 2. So if we carry 2 supplies into Earth orbit, we'll be able to build a base, exactly what we want to do. So the first thing we need to do is decrease our money by 2, because we're going to buy 2 supplies. If I can find the right place, here we go. So we're going to build 2 supplies, increase that to a 2 and put it on the Clipper. So now when we look at sequence of play, we drop all ships in the transfer boxes and then do our movement. So let's do that. So we've got the Glusko, which is in Jupiter orbit, so that drops 1 box, and we've got one in the Saturn orbit, so that drops a box as well. And now what the Kozlov is an orbiter, so of course it doesn't move. So the only other movement we've got is on Earth. So let's go back to our chart and we'll see that we're going to launch. So we're going to roll for launch, and we roll 25%, so we're not blown up. Now we don't have the technology which enables us to reclaim this rocket, so that means it's destroyed on use. But the Clipper is now going to be in Earth orbit. Oh, and I need to we'll remember that we've got 2 supply on it. So now we do we look at the sequence of play again, and we see that there's no space combat, so now we explore. So we could explore with the Clipper because we're in Earth orbit, and if we did that, we can see we've got an exploration value of 3 plus our 5, so 8 or less we could explore in Earth. But as it tells us when we look at page 27, we're not going to do that because we don't want to accidentally roll less than 45%, which would mean that we'd have to return home, so we wouldn't be able to build a base. So we're not going to explore with the Clipper, we're going to ignore it and move straight on to Mars. So our orbiter in Mars, we've got an exploration value, should be actually of 6. That's left over from my last video. So 6 plus 2 is 8, so 8 or less and we will have success. So let's explore. We roll a 1, so definitely successful. Sadly, we've got a malfunction, so we have to show that we've done an engine fail, which means that we get an engineering marker. We return this back to the card. Oh, I need to undo that. But before we do so, let's just see what kind of biology marker we got. It's a 1, so nothing exciting happened. So we collect our winnings from exploration. We get 1 biology card. We get a 1 biology, engineering marker for being destroyed, and we return this. Send this back to the card. Okay, so not quite so great there. Never mind. And then when we look over to where we are, we've got an orbiter at Jupiter, which means it can't do anything until it's in orbit, so there's nothing to be done with that. We do have a flyby, and there is a rule that says we can actually try and explore, and you add the number of the box you're in to your exploration. So we could try and explore here, but the chances of us just blowing up instead are too high, so we're not going to do that. So coming back now to our sequence of play, we see that now we can produce with CVs, so that means that we have the opportunity to produce with any crewed vehicles if they had the cog symbol, but we don't. So what we're going to do is build and expand bases. So now we get to build our base. So again, we look at our sheet, and we can see that we're going to spend these 2 supply and create the Mir space station. So now technically our ship is actually in the space station, so we need to, this will become important in a moment. So here we are, we're at the Mir space station, but we've created our first space station, so that's excellent. Now so exploration is complete. We've spent our 2 supply to build a base, and now we have finished the turn of 2030. So let's now advance the year, and we're told we're now in 2031. So at the start of 2031, looking at our sequence of play, we can build and service ships before we get to movement. So let's do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow the advice that's given here. So we pull up our chart again, and we've got a very interesting ship that we can build. We can build crew vehicle 2, that's the most our technology allows us. But you see we've got one here called the Render, and the Render doesn't have the ability to explore, but it is a cargo vessel, and it's got a cargo value of 6. Now when we look at the cost, which we can do by looking at the back, so we reserve it, and we can see that it would cost 2 ore, 4 supply and 2 fuel to build, which is a total of 8. But there's a trick, because we can still use the Render even when it's in its reserve status to transport. So we actually can build it for less. So we won't, for 1 supply and 1 fuel less, we are actually able to just build it. So we're going to do that, and instead of it costing us 8, it's going to cost us 6. So we can set the value now at 22. Now what are we going to do? Well, we're now going to have to build a new launch vehicle. It has to be a launch vehicle 2, because we're lifting a crewed vehicle of 2, and we can see that costs 3. So let's decrease the denomination by 3. So we now have a launch vehicle, and we now have our ship. So the thing that we want to take into space with us is we want to take 2 supply, 2 fuel and 2 ore. And why is that? Well, we're going to see that in a moment because of what we're going to build, but let's do that. Let's add 2 supply, 2 fuel and 2 ore. So we're going to just increase these. and put them on our cargo ship. Right, now going back to sequence of play. So the first thing that we need to do after building a ship is we need to, oh, I didn't pay. That's the other thing you should do, always pay. So I've built 6 things and they all cost 1 billion each. So that puts us on a new number of 13. Nearly got away with not paying, but I'm sure someone in the comments would have mentioned it. Okay, so we've paid and now we move. So again, we go across and we see that sadly we don't have anything on Mars anymore, but we do have this one to move and this one to move. So we've done movement. So now we can, do we want to make a decision about what to do with the ship that's already in Earth orbit? Well, what we're going to do is we are actually going to try and move it to the moon. So we know that on the base, when we look here, we can see that we've still got our clipper. So we're going to do an engine roll for engine failure. No, there's no engine failure. So we're actually going to go now to the moon and we're going to explore the moon. So that's the engine. We've moved from our base here to the moon. And on Earth, we're going to roll to see if we can launch successfully without blowing ourselves up. Roll for launch. Oh, actually, we got sound. I forgot about that.
3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Okay, and a highly successful liftoff, 100%. So nothing went wrong. Very true of the Soyuz. They've never blown up on launch. So we have to remove this, of course, because we don't have the technology to recover it. So now we can move this to the Mir because it's gone into space and landed there. So it says during the movement phase, Valentina drops the Glushko and the Zendaya to the Jupiter 2 box and the Saturn 4 box, which we've done. Then Valentina launches Render into Earth orbit, no engine failure. But it goes straight into dock, but it does have to stop moving after it docks. And then Render will transfer its resources to Mir at the start of the next phase, the combat phase, even though there'll be no combat. Clipper is still docked with Mir, so Valentina would like to explore the ship in 2031, but it won't be able to explore unless it makes a move to undock it first, which we did, and it's moved to the moon, so it's going to explore on the moon. So now we've got our resources are now at the station, which is good. And we just check our sequence of play, and we see that now that we've moved, there's no space combat, we've unloaded, and now we can explore. So we've just got one unit that's going to be exploring, which will be the Clipper, and we're going to explore the moon. So we've got a 5 for our crewed vehicle, 4 value for the moon. There's no world cards giving us any bonuses or minuses, so we just need to roll a 9 or less. So let's explore. We rolled a 9, so we've been successful, but sadly we have rolled 15, so that means that we are now going to be reserved. So we turn ourselves over to our reserve side. We see what card we get. Oh, that's right, it won't let us do that because I reserved it. So let me draw the world card first, which is an engineering number. No, it's only a 1, so it's not going to make any difference. We're going to, we haven't caused any depletion. So we reserve ourselves, and of course because we're reserved we do get a biology marker, so we do get something. So we can put this on here, and here's our biology marker for failing. So we've got something out of it, I guess. Not a lot. Okay. And that's all the exploration we can do this turn. But what happens next? Well, we're going to now be able to look at what happens with building of the base. So we can look at the sequence of play, and we can see now we can build and expand bases because we finished the exploration phase. So we can build and expand bases. So now what we're able to do is look at being able to expand the base, and I believe it's under markers, facilities. Yeah, here we go. So we see now that we've got different facilities that we're able to put on our bases, but they all have a cost. So what does it say that she does? Valentina uses the resources Render brought to Mir to build a small supply station for 1 ore and 1 fuel. Then her turn will be complete. So we're going to look at our supply station, and we can see a small supply station, which means we can build and service up to launch vehicle 2s and crew vehicle 2s, and it costs 1 ore and 1 fuel. So we can go back to the Mir station, and we can decrease the number of the ore and the fuel, and now we've paid for a small supply station. So now we can note that we actually have a small supply station on Mir. Excellent. So expansion has begun. So we could rebuild the vehicle that we lost, the robotic explorer, but what we'll do is we'll focus, it says, her remaining cash on building up Mir. She doesn't build anything this turn. So once again we go to the movement phase. So we end that year first, before I forget. Advance year, there we go. And we drop everybody that's moving, and we have a movement now with our crewed vehicle. So we're going to roll for engine failure. We don't, and we're going to just move back and dock with our base, and we'll see why that's a good idea in a moment. So there we are. Our reserved ship is there. So what does she decide to do next? During movement, it says Valentina returns Render to Earth. So what we want to do is now roll an engine roll to see if Render successfully gets back to Earth. Roll for engine failure. Nope. A little bit close, but no cigar. So Render is safely back on Earth. So that's the end of the movement phase. It says now that Mir has a supply station stocked with supply and fuel, Clipper will be able to return to Mir to restock. She rolls a safe docking, which we've done already. And it says this turn Valentina decides to explore with Zazyadko. Since she can explore any world in the Saturn system, she picks Titan. So let's look at that. So she's in the flyby box, and she decides to look at Titan. So Titan is an 8, we're a 3, so that's 11. However, we have to take 3 away from the result because we're still in the 3 flyby box. So 11 minus 3 is 8. So if we roll an 8 or less, we'll be able to explore Titan successfully. So let's try. We don't blow up, but we roll a 10, so not the 8 we need. So there's no, we fail to explore. But that gives you an idea of how flybys can be useful if they've got a good enough exploration number, even before they get to the actual flyby box. So we can get a bit of extra use out of them. And then it tells us what she does is she builds a small research station on Mir for 1 oil and 1 supply. So we're just going to check our sequence of play. So we see we've done the movement, we've explored, and we can now build and expand bases. So again, we can look at our markers and we can see that she wants to build a research station, and the cost of that is here. So it's 1 ore, 1 supply. So we look at our base at Mer, and we still see that we do have 1 ore left, and we've got 2 supplies. So we can deplete the supply number by 1, deplete the ore, and now we've been able to build a small research station, and this will allow tech production. So in the economic phase, we'll get some extra tech, so that's very helpful. So we can see Mer is slowly building up now. We've got a supply station and we've got a small research station coming along nicely. This is one of the advantages of playing Russia. It has the ability to build bases quite early due to the type of ships it has and crew vehicles it has. Alright, very good. So now it says that's the end of our turn. So we move on, advance a year, and we're now in 2033. So it says, in the build and service phase of 2033, Valentina purchases another launch vehicle. So let's do that. So we need to build another launch vehicle, and we know these cost 3 because we need one that's big enough to take that ship back. So we decrease that by 3. So we're now on 10. And she decides to buy 2 ore, 2 supply and 2 fuel. So we're going to spend another 6 billion, leaving us with 4. And we're going to add some fuel, some ore and some supply, 2 of each. And we can put them back on our cargo vessel. And now she uses the remaining 1 supply and 1 fuel at Mer to unreserve Clipper. So here's the Clipper, and to unreserve we need 1 fuel and 1 supply. So fortunately we've got both. So now we're able to use Clipper again for exploration when it comes to the movement phase. So now we see the advantage of having this small supply station, because of course the Clipper hasn't had to come all the way back to Earth, which would have cost us another launch vehicle to get her back into space. She's been able to resupply in space. Very, very useful. So now it says, then during the movement phase she drops the Glushko and Zasyadko, which we'll do again. So we can use this to move quickly to the right area. Although I still managed to go to the wrong place. Okay, now our orbiter has moved down a box, and of course our flyby. She moves the Glushko down to the flyby box, but she wants to move it to Europa. So of course this means we need to turn our engines on because we want to get to Europa. So let's roll for engine failure. Close, but it's okay. We get a cigar. So we're able to move directly to Europa, and now we're orbiting Europa. We want to launch the render, so we need to do that. Let's roll for launch. And there's no disaster there. So sadly it's destroyed on use, but there was no disaster. And the render is now back in dock safely. And we now want to move the Clipper back to the moon, so we're going to do that. Now in this example what happens is the Clipper actually blows up as it goes, and we're going to do that because we just want to see what happens when a crew vehicle is destroyed. It's rare because you have to roll 3% or less, but in this example that's what happens. And when you play the campaign game, you're actually given 2 engine saves, so you get 2 get out of jail free cards, if you like, for when you do it. But just for this example, let's just say it was destroyed. So we can see that what happens is we draw the engine fail, and what happens is we get a bunch of things here. So we get 3 engineering for the engine fail because of the crew vehicle blowing up. So it tells us that we draw 3 random engineering tech markers. It says at least the Russian engineers will learn something from their mishap. Well, that's true, I suppose. So let's put that back there to show it's been destroyed, and we can just unmask them and see how much we learn. Not a lot. 4 engineering technology. But there we go. There's the example of what happens when you blow up. So now what we can do is just check what happens with the Glushko as it explores Europa. So let's do that. Here we go. So let's roll for exploration. So 1 plus 7 is 8, so we succeed, and but sadly we are once again destroyed due to the fact that we've rolled 6%. Also, of course, we'd have to take into account that it's got radiation. Radiation adds 10%. So actually we had a 40% chance of something bad happening, which it did. So this is we draw from the tech world, so let's see what we get. No, not a 3. So we get some biology, and then we failed, so we know that we're going to get an engineering for that, and then we just return this to the card, and so we gain some biology and yet another engineering. So the engineers back in Russia are getting lots of experience from failure, sadly. So we've finished with our with that part of the exploration, but it says Valentina decides to again explore Titan with the Zasyadko. So let's do that. So of course we are slightly closer. So Titan is 8 plus our 3 is 10, 11, but it's -2 now. So on a 9 or less, remember it's -2 because we're in the 2 box. So when we're in the flyby box, there's no minuses, but there's a -2 to explore. But our chances are still good because we're going to have a 9 or less. So let's see. So we roll for exploration, and indeed we are successful. So we gain a biology marker. It's a 5. So we cause a depletion. Oh, it's not a free depletion. Let me undo that. Don't want to confuse that. Free depletion is something that happens when you have 5 or more players. So we decrease the value, and of course a couple of things are going to happen, aren't they? So we remember from our last video. So because we've caused a depletion, we increase our politics by 1. We get a politics marker. We are able to check the world card, and also oh, I need to put the make sure we take our winnings. Sadly, we did roll 20%, so once again we've ended up blowing up. So we get an engineering marker for blowing up, and this is returned back to our stockpile of things to buy. But we do have a world card that we can now choose from. So let's see if it's applicable. So a world type is minimal gravity. So let's see what Titan's got. It's got a thick atmosphere, so this doesn't apply. But we return it to the deck. But there was something I forgot to mention about the vehicle, the Explorer that we just used. We used the Zasyadko, and it could have had a spectrometer on it, and that would be highlighted by having 3 stripes. I'm not sure if the Russians have got one. No, it doesn't look like it. So some robotic explorers have got three coloured stripes on it to show they have a spectrometer, which means we'd be able to pull 2 world cards and pick the one that we want. But that wasn't the case with us. So now we get a chance to search for life, because we've depleted that world. So if we look at Titan, it says that we've got a 9% chance of finding signs of life. So let's check if that's what happens. Yes, check us out. What heroes we are. And this means I can do something I forgot to do in the last example of play. We do actually also place a marker on Titan that I forgot to do. So anyway, in the excitement, let's we gain a politics marker because we found signs of life. We go to the tech tree and we ignore the American and we put signs of life for us. So we know we're going to get a +2. So for our biology from now on, and we already build at 4, so we're going to be building at 6, which will be exciting in the economic phase because we've got this signs for life. But there is actually a marker for this. So if we go to markers, we've got a signs for life marker. So we place this on Titan because it means that if we are ever put a base on Titan, we'll get a bonus technology point production because there's signs of life there. So that's just something to remember. And something I forgot to mention in the last video. So there we are. Titan's now got a signs of life bonus. So lovely. It's going to be a bit tough to put a base on there. That'll take a few decades probably, but anyway, once we manage to get over there, we'll be away. So what does Valentina decide to do next? So let's just finish this example. It says she's successfully unloaded her cargo at Mir. So during the trade and base construction phase, Valentina decides to build a settlement. Settlements are expensive. So let's just get the markers out and look at facilities, and we're going to look at a settlement. So we can see it costs 2 ore, 2 supply and 1 fuel. So not cheap, but we are now going to be able to add a settlement. So we now have started to expand the human race beyond Earth, which is exciting. So the cost is 2 ore, 2 supply and 1 fuel. So we've built our base. So you can see now that we're already jumping ahead due to the fact that we've got this cargo ship that's enabling us to resupply our base. Now, if we could also do it by sending up launch vehicles. So launch vehicles, if we use a 2 launch vehicle, we could send 2 of something. But as you can see, that would become very expensive quite quickly because each launch vehicle costs 3. So we've explored and we've built. So that's the end of this turn. And it says she only has 4 billion left. There's not much left for her to do until the next economic phase of 2040. But we can see that she's made good progress. The supply station will be helpful for unreserving ships. The research station will produce free tech points of any type Valentina wishes to use every economic phase. And since the Mir has a settlement, she'll be able to draw a trade marker in 2040 and then buy resources at the base for a discount or sell resources. And other players could also trade with her. and she'd get 1 billion for that as a tariff. Additionally, Valentina will now roll for settlement growth and may thus earn additional settlements for free. And the way that works is for the settlement size, you roll a d10. So we're a settlement of 1. So if we rolled a 1, we'd actually increase the settlement size free of charge. I'll let you guess what that means they've been doing to increase the size. It says, lastly, Mir and its facilities will earn Valentina points at the end of the game. So that's another reason why having bases and putting extra settlements and facilities on them will earn points at the end of the game, at the end of a campaign game. So there we are. Hopefully that's helped you understand by going through the example on page 27 and 28 of the book. We've seen how we've been able to explore, move, create a base, and then add facilities to the base.